Hi, Founder fans. Jason here. Welcome to Founder of the Day Trivia. Happy Trivia Friday. Thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate it. While you're here, if you want to hit like on the way in, that'd be fantastic. And we're going to, as people start rolling in, we're going to do a little bit of chit-chatting real quick. Usually I start off with 5 founders in 5 minutes. Unfortunately, was short on time this week, so we're going to do one founder. Now, I'm realizing now, there's always something I forget now, isn't there? I'm going to pop up this study hall, as I call it here, with this gentleman next to me, Walter Stewart. And I am going to have to, real quick, do a copy and paste here, because I forgot to, this side, put your chats on the side here. Oh, no. Why would I do that? Let's see. And now I've lost it. Oh, things are going. What a start. What a start today. So, as I do this, I am going to do a quick one-person countdown. We don't really need it here. Oops, whoopsie daisy. Sometimes you don't start too hot, do you guys? All right. At least I got all the questions ready for us today. Real quick, where's the countdown? Oh, of course, there it is. You know, guys, it's just one of those days. Bear with me here while I get my live action back on track. It is countdown trivia. There we go. And let's do it at 2 minutes. Give us some time to talk about this guy. Give people some time to roll on in. With that being said, this is Walter Stewart. And the reason we're talking about him today is, as several people have claimed, he is the handsomest man in the Continental Army. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Is he actually the very handsomest man? And look at him. I actually read this in several different places. It's kind of fascinating how many people thought he was so good looking. So I apologize if your heart has melted by putting this image on the screen for you. Walter Stewart's really interesting. He comes over to North America as a child. He's about 16 years old in 1773, just before the war breaks out, comes over from Ireland. I guess a little older than a child, but late teens. He ends up joining the revolution as a colonel pretty early on, and then finds his way onto the staff of Major General Horatio Gates. He is an aide-de-camp to that general, and as such is among the highest ranking, not among himself, but surrounded by the highest ranking people in the Continental Army. Now, in this situation, he ends up doing a few things. First of all, he suppresses several mutinies. First, the Continental line, the Connecticut line, I should say, mutinies. And they were upset that they weren't getting treated fairly. And Stewart is able to convince them, hey, none of the soldiers are getting treated fairly. It's not just you. And then Connecticut was like, oh, okay. And they stopped the mutiny. That was it. He's then later called in to stop the mutiny of the Pennsylvania line, where he works with Joseph Reed to once again placate the concerns of the soldiers who were throwing off their government. He then, after the Treaty of Paris, he plays a pretty important role in the Newburgh affair, or the Newburgh Conspiracy. Cat's leaving, as always. The Newburgh Conspiracy, as it's often called, where George Washington gives his famous I've grown not only old but nearly blind in service to my country speech. He then, after the military is over, he ends up, what does he do? He was a major player in creating the Newburgh Conspiracy. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. He was a major player in creating the Newburgh Conspiracy, essentially. He then goes on to private life and just being very excellently good-looking the remainder of his days. So that is Walter Stewart, the most handsome man in the Continental Army. And with that, let's bounce over here to trivia. And our first question is, what was the 15th state to enter the Union? Starting off with a bit of an easier one today. I am going to change this to 1 minute and change it down to the trivia timer. Timer games. There we go. Okay, 1 minute. What was the 15th state to enter the Union? Anyone just joining us? You're here just in time. This is the first question. And while we're talking about it, I need to find my comments. There's Troy. Hi, Troy. Participants are popping up. I don't know what happened to my comments. All right, let's see here. Well, They're not going to be on the screen today because I can't find them. We got 2 answers, though. Troy and Sue coming through with answers. We got about 30 seconds, see if anyone else pops in. Troy, Sue, thank you so much for coming today. Your answers are supposed to be on the opposite side of the screen for me. I popped it out to do the copy and paste, and I can't find it. Luckily, I use another program to show me your comments as well. It's really frustrating, though, that I cannot seem to find the comments. Where could that be? Where could it be? Oh. And I may very well have canceled the stream by accidentally backing out. I sure hope that didn't happen. Okay, let me know if you're still with me, please. I was trying to solve a problem and I created more. But yes, anyone, if you are still there, the answer was Kentucky. And I'm going to get my game together today. It's one of those days. Yes, Kentucky, June 1st, 1792, the 15th state. 14th was Vermont the year before. And the 16th was Tennessee just a few years later. Sue, thank you for letting me know. Anyway, I really have messed up all my stuff today. All right, next question. Who wrote the eulogy for George Washington that was given to Congress, the United States Congress? When Washington passed away in 1799, December of 1799, eulogies were given nationwide. But Congress had an official eulogy. I will note that the person who wrote the eulogy was actually absent that day and didn't give the speech, but they did write it. And it does have one particularly noteworthy part where he says, he quotes George Washington as first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of his fellow citizens. So who called George Washington first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of his fellow citizens? It's an extremely famous line at this point. And that's that. So if you let me know, you have 27 seconds to take a wild guess. It's a pretty famous person. Maybe not the very most famous. I see some answers coming in. Maybe not the very most famous, but pretty famous. Hey, Gray Wheels, thanks for coming to hang out. Got 10 seconds. I'm going to let you mull on it for a minute. He's part of a gigantic family, if that's a better hint, because no one's gotten it right so far. I will give you that hint. I am also about 6 seconds ahead of you today, so we're going to pop that open. That's not what I meant to do. And the answer is Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee. Nathaniel Greene had died, actually, in the 1780s. Good guess. Hamilton makes sense. He wrote a lot of stuff for Washington. He was close. Troy Adams makes sense because he was vice president. You might expect the vice president to take on that type of role. Gray Wheels, Jefferson was a famous, a really good writer and famous at the time. Sitting vice president at the time. Running for president at the time. Lighthorse Harry Lee was still a member of Congress at this point. Hadn't quite been disgraced on the national stage yet. And the reason he was selected was because he was not only had served with the general during the Revolution, but as a Virginian, many people thought he had known the general best up to that point, and therefore gave him the honor of writing the eulogy. Again, that famous quote, we've heard the quote, but we don't remember who wrote it. First in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of his countrymen. Question the next. Between Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and Hamilton, who was tallest and who was shortest? So we got a minute here. Give me a T for tallest and an S for shortest. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and Hamsalot. While you do that, I will note I looked this up after going to see Hamilton this week because I was curious about heights. And I will say the answer to this question is interesting, to say the least. Very interesting. And I am really confused as to why I have lost our little chat here on the side. So I apologize you can't see your sweet answers this week. We'll just have to deal with it. Jefferson tallest, Adams the shortest, says Troy, and Gray Wheels saying, excuse me, Hamilton shortest. Ooh. Washington tallest, but I've also felt he and Jefferson were similar. Hamilton shortest, but my other guess is Adams. Seems like he could be short. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a surprise, guys. This was kind of a trick question because everyone was right. Washington and Jefferson were the same height, 6'2", and Adams and Hamilton were the same height, 5'7". So, I did some looking up. The average height at this time in America seems to have been 5'8". So, not that much shorter than the average height nowadays. Although, I will note, I also read people were actually shorter in the late 1700s than they were in the Middle Ages. People shrunk for a little bit there. There's that. Also, Aaron Burr was 5'6", so just a little bit shorter than Hamilton. And despite what the play says. And James Madison, famously short, was 5'4". He was fairly short. But Washington and Jefferson would be considered tall today, and they towered over other people. Like, look at these numbers. You literally, like, what is that? A bunch of inches. So what is it? Up to 12? That's 5, 6, 7 inches? Washington and Jefferson just walking around towering over their friends. I think that's hilarious. Although, I don't know why. I just do. Continuing. Sorry for tricking you. That was fun. Continuing on. Which 3 states ratified the Constitution unanimously? Sue saying, I've also heard that the colonists were like an inch or two taller on average than those in England and Europe at the time. No idea if true. Sue, I don't know if that's true either. It might not surprise me. Probably people who wanted to go tame the wilderness. Take a boat that took 2 months that you might not survive to be what they called seasoned, aka survive a year without dying of sickness, and then tame the wilderness. Generally, that would be more... I don't want to use the term manly men, because obviously there were women came around, and James Madison was very small. But it does make sense that some of the bigger, stronger people might be the ones taking those kind of risks. But I don't know. That's interesting. I'm just reflecting on your comment there. Delaware is one, but I'm not sure of the others. Okay, as time runs out, Sue saying Delaware, Troy saying New York, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So, the answers are Delaware, New Jersey, and Georgia. Now, those were the first, third, and fourth to ratify. So these states were right there, real quick, jumped on board. Let's do this. Let's be America all the way. Over 3, Troy. Now, I will say Pennsylvania was number 2, and they had a very large margin. Their margin was like, it was like 100-something to 1. Do I still have it? You know what? I will pull it up here. I have the numbers in front of me, because some of it's fun. Although, actually, before I do that, now, sorry, to be a different color. That's what happens when I change this screen over here. I'm going to ask the next question before I talk about the ratification themselves, because which state had a margin of 3 votes? Let me know which state, when all the votes were counted, had a margin of 3 votes. While you say that, I am going to say, Troy, Pennsylvania was number 2 to ratify. They ratified very quickly. Your other 2 are very wrong. Very wrong. So, sorry to do that to you, but I'm putting it out there. Sue with Rhode Island, that is a very good guess. I forgot to start the timer. I'm going to let it run till, let's say, I'll give you 15 more seconds because I forgot to start it, and I don't want to waste too much time. Rhode Island is an extraordinarily good guess. Troy, again with Virginia. Now he's going the opposite. If it wasn't unanimous, I'm going with very close. Troy just really wants Virginia, and that was more than 15 seconds. The answer for this is New York. Now, Sue, this is a tricky question because Rhode Island was a margin of 2 votes. New York was 3. I thought this might be a little too scumbaggy for me to put that out there. So I'm just gonna run through it real quick. First is Delaware, 30-0. Pennsylvania was 46-23, so not horribly off, but about 2/3 of the people there voted for it. New Jersey, 38-0. Georgia, 26-0. Connecticut, 128-40. So almost 170 people in a room. 40. I will answer that question in just a second, Troy. 128 to 40. So a big sweep. Massachusetts, 187 to 168. It only passed by 19 votes, and there were like, what, 340 people in the room. And if 10 of them changed their minds, Massachusetts would not have ratified. So that makes that 19-person gap an extremely close race. Maryland, 63 to 11, pretty overwhelming. South Carolina, 149 to 73, still pretty overwhelming. New Hampshire, 57-47, only 10 votes. 10 votes, and that was in its second session. It met twice. So very close to New Hampshire. Then Virginia, 89 to 79, also 10 votes. Then New York, 30 to 27, 3 votes. Then North Carolina, 75 to 193, overwhelmingly against. And then the United States happens, and then North Carolina meets again, and they vote almost exactly the opposite way, 194 to 77. Then Rhode Island, a year and a half into Washington's presidency, finally votes 34 to 32. And interestingly, before it was brought in as a state, Vermont actually voted to ratify 105 to 4 as a way of saying, let us in. So, little fun there. As for Troy's question here, Hamilton's Federalist responses weren't too effective. No. I would argue no. Now, it did pass, but the people, the delegates to New York's convention were elected in early 1788 while the Federalists are publishing, and they would still publish for another 6 months before they met that summer. Now, for some reason, George Clinton, and this reason has not been made clear to me, and trust me, I've looked for it. George Clinton scheduled the convention for the following summer. If New York had met in early 1788, they definitely would have been, there were about 75 anti-federalists. Most of the New Yorkers elected to the ratification convention were elected on anti-federalist platforms. But then they waited, and one state ratified, and another state ratified, and then New Hampshire ratified. And then because New Hampshire ratified, Virginia ratified. And now New York's sitting there all alone against another government that surrounded it. And even Melancton Smith, who was the anti-federalist leader on the floor of the convention, finally throws up his hands and says, we might as well accept it and try and change it from the inside. Had they had that election earlier, in January, February, March, April, May, if they had the convention then, New York probably would not have ratified it, and then New Hampshire would have been nervous, so who knows what would have happened there, because they only had a 10-vote gap. And Virginia would have been nervous, and who knows what would have happened there, because they only had a 10-vote gap. And a lot of anti-federalists in Virginia. So, I mean, you could give the Federalists credit if you want, or you could just say futility is what caused New York to join the Union. So with that, let's have some fun. It seems like there's only 3 of us hanging out today, so let's see what we can get. Yeah, I've read it in several, my Storing's Anti-Federalist book. They talk about it a little bit in Eisenberg's Aaron Burr biography, because they're putting him in the situation. A bunch of the biographies I have, say it and then move on. But they don't, I'm unable to find out. I have been trying to find, and I should probably tweet this out. That's right, Nick, we're only a few questions in. I should probably tweet it out. I've been trying to find out the date that New York set its ratification convention's dates, if that makes sense. I don't know how to tweet it out. On what day did George Clinton decide and announce, this is when we're going to have our convention? You only got 3 minutes, Nick. Well, you're here just in time, because we are moving over to the Declaration, and this is something you can help us with. So, guys, you know the drill. Give me last names. Give me the names of the signers of the Declaration. Nick, get us all the ones you can early. as quick as you can. I will pop up our timer here. Let's do 8 minutes. 8 minutes, because Nick's only got 3, so pop them out. All right, Nick giving us Jefferson. Sue, Troy, Grey Wheels, anyone else who's here? We're looking for the signers of the Declaration of Independence right now, so give us those names. I do recommend starting with the big 6 because we don't want to miss the most famous names. Nick, you only gave us 1. I know I'm a few seconds ahead of you, but it would be very helpful. Adams, okay, that's 2. That's 2. Audrey, welcome to the show. Adams, there we go. Got the Adamses, got Franklin. What other names can we pop up here? Payne, yes. Not Thomas Paine, but I'm going to give it to you because I only asked the last name. It's Robert Treat Paine. Nick coming through with Reed. Where is he? R's. Reed. George Reed, not Joseph Reed, spelled differently. Hi, Audrey. Thank you so much for being here. Hopkins and Hopkins' son. Those are 2 H's. Should be pretty close to each other. I have them backwards, but that's okay. Rutledge, absolutely. It's an E instead of an I with the spelling. Rutledge. Here it is. McKean. We do have a McKean somewhere. There he is. Morris, that's 2. Robert and Lewis Morris, unrelated. Lee. Troy coming through with the brothers. Richard Henry and Francis Lightfoot Lee. We got Dana. No, Francis Dana did not sign this particular document. I believe he signed the Articles of Confederation, and he definitely worked overseas. Alex, welcome to the party. We're naming founders. Give us some last names over here. With. George, with, not Wythe. All right, we got Stockton with an S. We got Folsom with an F. No, Folsom did not sign this particular document. Good guess, though. Wythe, we just got up there. Lewis, that's right. We got Lewis Morris, but we did not get Mr. Lewis. There he is. I want to click the wrong name. Sherman. There, everyone's saying Sherman because he signed everything. Never want to forget the easy one. Rodney. Caesar Rodney. Yes, sir. He definitely signed that document, and his name starts with an R, not a C. Put him in alphabetical order. I thought that would make it easier on me, but it apparently doesn't. All right, Mr. Livingston. One of the Livingstons did hang around to sign it. Philip, the old man of the group. Dr. Benny Rush, for sure. Elbridge Gaharry. Yes, sir. Hugely important American founder. All right, everyone wants me to get Paca, so we'll get him. I think it's Paca, or is it Paca? I never knew the pronunciation. Arthur Middleton, yep, came in to replace his dad just in time. Button Gwinnett, for sure. One of my favorite names in history. Hancock, oof, don't want to forget Johnny Hands over here. Hughes, okay, pretty close to the H, so that makes things easier. Carroll, I almost said John. Charles Carroll of Carrollton, for sure. Walton, yep. Clymer, George climbs a lot. There he is. We did pop up Hopkins and Ross. Where is Ross? I know there's a lot of names on the screen, so it's hard to tell. I should have probably alphabetized those too. I just squeezed them in the best I could. Where is the letter R? There it is. Ross. Wilson, did we get Wilson yet? No, we did not. James Wilson. Probably one of the smartest guys in the room. Penn. That's right, John Penn. I don't think related to the Penn family of Pennsylvania. He is from North Carolina. Abraham Clark of New Jersey. With a C. I have to look over and be like, what does Clark start with? Okay, got a lot. I will give you a hint. If you ever watched The West Wing, the name of the president in The West Wing. I see a Whipple coming through. Dang right, we got a Whipple. Okay, well, someone said Walton. I think I gave you Wolcott on accident. So there you go, Wolcott. Don't you know what's inside? Gave you guys a freebie. William Floyd from my own hometown. Audrey coming through Floyd too. Thornton, New Hampshire's own. See you, Nick. Thanks for coming in. Big help. Braxton, yes. Carter Braxton. Absolutely. Did I see, no, the name of the president in the show The West Wing was named after this particular guy. Samuel Chase, future Supreme Court Justice. Very good. Let's see. We got the father of a president and the great-grandfather of a president. One man had a son and great-grandson become president. The great-grandson shared his name. William Floyd, that's right. That's right, Audrey. Harrison, that's right. I guess that was a good hint. His son, William Henry Harrison, and his great-grandson, Benjamin Harrison. And if you want, remind me after this, I will tell you a weird story about the man in the middle who had a father and a son be president. He's got a crazy story. Morton, like Morton Salt, he's on here for sure. There we go. Troy, you guessed a name earlier today that was wrong. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Okay, Stone. You guessed a name earlier today that was wrong. That now would be right. Stone. Oh, come on. Come up with hints. Come up with hints. Audrey, you're from Long Island. The biggest town in Nassau County coming from Suffolk. That's a tough hint. It's a tough hint. A really important guy in Connecticut politics. When you enter the front door, you walk down the... All right, that's a pretty easy one. Again, the president in The West Wing. I can't be the only one who's watched that show. It's a fun show. I mean, idealistic, yeah, but it's fun. How to come up with names? We got a lot of them. What's the most basic name? Yes, Witherspoon. I was just thinking that. Absolutely, I will give it to you, Troy. A guy had the same. His first name and last name were the same, except the last name had an S at the end. Does that help? It's the same name twice, just with an S on the second one. Again, you guys, I've been saying it for years now. So the president from The West Wing, the television show, is a correct answer here. If you wanted to type it in. Smith, Troy, yes, Smith, the most basic name in the world. I apologize if anyone here has the last name Smith. It is, I believe, the most common name in the United States. We've only got a few more. And we're running low on time. Again, you walk in a house, and then you walk down the... I feel like that's a really great hint. We did get pain. You don't walk down that. Beats in your chest is another one. Okay, I've have time up. I see you guys still have 4 seconds, so I'm gonna hang out for another. You walk down the porch. There it is. Troy got it. Hall. You walk down the hall. You walk on a porch. I feel like a hall is the only part of the house you walk down. We got a lot of them. I'm gonna count the ones we didn't get. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We didn't get 10, which means we got 46, which is very good. So the first one we didn't get was Josiah Bartlett, the character played by Martin Sheen in The West Wing. The President Bartlett is named after this particular favorite son of New Hampshire. Josiah Bartlett, he would go on to be governor. Really important dude to the state of New Hampshire. We didn't get William Ellery. I don't even think I gave you a hint for this one. He's the guy who sits down while everyone else is signing. He sits at the table to watch their faces to see how sad they are. Hart is just... I gave you a quick hint. Beaten in the chest at the end. That was too easy, I think. Hayward, I don't even know what hint to give you for this guy. Hooper, I was going to say Kangen with Mr. Hooper. I don't know if anyone gets that kind of obscure 90s sitcom reference. Huntington, Sue, this is the one, or Audrey, I'm sorry, this is the one I was trying to give you the hint. The biggest town in Nassau, closest to Suffolk County. I don't believe it's named after him, but it's there. Lynch, again, his father was sick around the corner. Nelson from Virginia. George Taylor, I should have given you the, he's the indentured servant who signed the Declaration. And then Williams. William Williams. That was the hint I was trying to give you guys. The guy with the same name twice, but the last name is plural. William Williams. So, that was fun. We did really good this week. With that, we'll bounce back over here. Wait, no, that's the read-along. That's the study hall. There's trivia. I got a lot of buttons to press over here. I am going to... Please ignore the timer. I will ask the next question and fix it. When the Continental Congress added 13 stars to the American flag, what did they replace? Make this a 1. There you go, that's better. When the Continental Congress... Did Carroll actually sign it of Carroll as Carrollton? Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I believe he did, because he was Charles Carroll of Carrollton. He had a cousin, Charles Carroll, of somewhere else in Maryland. So he wanted them to know it was it. You know, you don't want to sign the death warrant of your cousin to cover your ass, right? That's not exactly the right thing to do. Yeah, don't ever forget William Williams. It's a great name. My sister had a friend in high school and elementary school and everything, all the way through, George Giorgio, which was a name I always very much liked as well. I do see some answers coming through. As time expires, I am going to give it to you. The Union Jack, which, yes, Sue, is the British flag. So, you're both right. I don't know why it's called the Union Jack. That might actually, if one of you guys know, put in the comments. I'd like to know. I was thinking that when I wrote this question, I'm like, why is it the Union Jack? What does that mean? The Jack. Anyway, we're going to move on to our not American Revolution question this week. We always want to do one each week so we can broaden our horizons. Who was the first person to sign the Declaration of Sentiments at the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848? Now, that is not how you spell the word sign, though I have been reading The Puritan Dilemma by Edmund S. Morgan, which is about John Winthrop, and he had a lot of words that ended with E that we would not assume ended with E. So I will pretend I did it subconsciously because I've been reading that, which is not true. I just misspelled it. The Declaration of Sentiments, the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848 was a women's right convention held in Seneca Falls. It was only about half an hour from my house. It was the first time women got together and said, maybe we should be equal. To be fair, there were a bunch of men there too. Both Frederick Douglass was there. A bunch of white dudes were there to help out as well, of course, but it was mostly women. And this is the impetus for the almost century of women's liberation movement that would continue in the United States, really peaking with the amendment giving women the right to vote as well. Is that the... Oh, people are going to be mad at me. It's not the 19th. 19th is alcohol. 17th is the IRS. So 18th is the 18th Amendment that gave women the right to vote? Oh, man, I feel terrible right now. I feel terrible. I can't memorize all the amendments. There's 27 of them. That's so many. And as time runs out, I am going to let you know. Troy with a great guess. Elizabeth Cady Stanton. 18 is Prohibition, 19. Okay. Woodrow Wilson had a bunch of amendments real quick, so I always get them confused. Elizabeth Cady Stanton is a fantastic guess. She did sign the document. But the first person is Lucretia Coffin Mott. There are a few names that hang around from this time period when it comes to women's liberation. Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Lucretia Mott is a name that kind of gets put on the back burner, unfortunately, because she was really one of the forward-thinking people at that time. I don't remember all of her politics in particular. I believe she was one of the people who was with Frederick Douglass really trying to tie the abolition movement and the women's liberation movement together to say, like, people, right? So, ran across that this week, thought it might be fun to bring up. Let's get right back to the American Revolution. Did Mad Ann Bailey help the Continental Army as a nurse, a scout, or a soldier? Now, I don't want to tell you too much about Mad Ann Bailey because I don't want to give away the answer here, and giving just a few details on her life can help you weed out probably this, but I'm putting it out there. Putting it out there, letting it ride. Let's see what you guys have to say. I'm waiting patiently. I'm gonna sip my water. I've been talking so much, those. Oh, speaking so well. Now, there are 3 answers here, so you guys should put... Okay, I see Troy come through with an answer. Let's see. Sue, anyone else still hanging around? Audrey, want to put out an answer? Now would be the time. Got 12 seconds left. Sue, guessing yes. Only one is the answer. This is not a trick question like I do from time to time. And I am going to pop up the answer. It is Scout. You could argue... it's hard to argue Soldier, but she did fairly engage with Native Americans. The reason she got mad at Aunt Bailey, she rode way farther than Paul Revere ever did, up and down the frontier, nonetheless, delivering messages for the Continental Army, including saving an entire fort by alerting another fort that they needed reinforcements. So she was working with the Continental Army, so I guess that technically makes her a soldier, if that makes any sense, but not a nurse. She did some really cool stuff. I'm not going to get too much into her story, though. She did some really fantastic stuff. We talked about her not too long ago. Audrey, Union Jack is an awesome name. 17th century became Union Jack. Something to do with warship. Oh, interesting. Am I answering the wrong question? No, you're just still answering the last one, but they're all the right question. All right, let's continue. We got 2 more here for this week. Which Iroquois chief led major campaigns for the British in New York State? I did spell Iroquois wrong, I'm noticing now, so I apologize to anyone that offends. I live in former Iroquois territory, so I know how it is supposed to be spelled. I am apologizing for spelling it wrong. I acknowledge right away, this is also not the first question I've had a spelling error, and probably not the last. I'm here for the history, not for the literature, if that makes any sense. I do apologize. What's interesting about the program I use for the videos, I'm typing it right into the program when I type in these questions. It doesn't have spell check. So when I type up articles and stuff, I'm in like Google Docs or Word, and it'll let you know if you spell a normal word wrong. And you're like, oops, that was an accident. This does not. So I do it. Troy coming through with an answer. It's making me want to look something up. Yes, okay. We got 17 seconds left. If anyone else wants to guess about an Iroquois chief that led actions for the British. And the time's running low. Time's running low. And I'm not going to wait anymore. Yes, it is Joseph Brant. You made me double check myself because it's spelled like this, Troy. And I accidentally spelled it the way you spelled it with the D. So, though I spelled Iroquois wrong on this particular question, I caught myself spelling the guy's name wrong. But you know what? I have it written down here, but now I'm like second guessing myself again. No, we're going to look it up. We want to get this right. Joseph Brant. Yes, there is no D. It feels like a name that gets a D before the T. I did it myself and looked it up, and I just looked it up again to make sure. That was the Mohawks, not all 5 nations. So the Iroquois had a civil war during the American Revolution. The 5 nations, and for a time, 6 nations, were a confederacy. Essentially one centralized confederation of states, if you will, or tribes, or nations, however you want to say it. But once the revolution starts, mostly on the back of a gentleman named Samuel Kirkland, who was a preacher who had gone to the area, the 5 nations can't decide whether they should team up with Britain or America, and they split up. And the Tuscarora and Oneida side with the Americans, and the other 3 nations, actually at that point the other 4 nations, side with the British. And they are mostly led by Joseph Brant, who was very close to William Johnston, Sir William Johnston, who lived in Mohawk territory for a long time. He dies in 1774. So it's interesting to think about what he might have been involved with had he lived, whether he would have been a loyalist or joined the Patriots. Now, his name was Sir, William Johnson, so he probably would have joined the Loyalists. And his son, and not officially adopted, but essentially adopted son, Joseph Brant, end up fighting for the Loyalists. So, fun little background there. And we will wrap up with one last question. A little bit out of the blue, but, it's a really interesting position. What did an apothecary make? Apothecary is a fun title that we hear about, and hear about was a long time. Audrey, my phone is going to pass away. I have to run home before it does, and I'm on foot. Oh, that's an actual run you've got to do. Gray Wheel's coming through with an answer. Oh, I got a cat kicking open the door. If you hear that creaking, happens at least once a show. As I've mentioned before, if I prop the door closed, if I really close it, then they'll sit there and scratch and scratch and scratch because they want to come be lazy on my bed, which, little inside baseball here, my room is oddly shaped. So my closet is in one part of a room and the rest is, I'm operating essentially out of my bedroom. Because, I don't have the biggest budget in the world for this. Can't rent a studio yet. Okay, well, not wrong, Troy. Yes, an apothecary made medicine. It's essentially what we would consider a pharmacist today, except you need a license to be a pharmacist. And to be an apothecary, you just go in the woods and get some herbs, grind them together. Dude, Troy, that's one of those other words I can never pronounce. Poultices and salves. It's like it's like when we do the Federalist read-alongs. Exigencies, I think. Poultices is another one of those words that I just never can get out appropriately. Which, you guys watching, I can speak fairly well. Herbs and mushrooms. Who knew the hippies were apothecaries? Well, Troy, I think the hippies knew they were apothecaries. And you know what? With the changing in the medical marijuana laws around the country, I guess everything that's natural isn't so bad. Anyway, with that, I'll pull myself back up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I do hope to do a video tomorrow night. I've been working on a family tree for a while, and it's just a lot goes into it. Not just researching it, but then creating the tree itself. And then I do it live for an hour, and it's all done. So we are going to be getting there shortly. Tomorrow, I'm either going to do that, or I might start going through the songs of Hamilton. As I mentioned yesterday in my video, I saw Hamilton. I've known the songs of Hamilton for a long time. There's a lot we can learn going through the lyrics of most of the songs, but it will take a very long time. So I'm thinking about doing that tomorrow. Maybe we'll do an hour of it and see how many songs we can get through. Some songs will take me a lot longer than other ones. I'm not going to play the songs. I don't have rights to it, but I'll go through the lyrics just to elaborate on what misconceptions we are learning about and what truths are being taught to the general public, which is always nice. I got some questions coming in. Question about something earlier. With Lee eulogizing Washington, was that Lee part of the same family as Charles Lee, or did Charles Lee and Washington have a beef? Well, okay, so here is the side note. The family tree I said I was working on earlier is the Lee family tree. It is giant. Now, Sue, as for the Lee you're referencing, the Charles Lee you're referencing, no, he's not part of that family tree. Though, if you go back to England far enough, I'm sure they're related at some point. If you go back far enough, we're all related somewhere, is my understanding of how humanity works. There is, however, a Charles Lee, actually the aforementioned Light Horse Harry Lee, who did the eulogizing for Washington. He did have a brother named Charles Lee, totally unrelated to the person you're referencing, who was Attorney General under John Adams. So the sitting Attorney General was actually brothers of Light Horse Harry Lee, who had written that speech. Troy? Oh, well, I'm glad you liked the Hamilton review, Troy. Thank you so much. It was fun. It's different, but you know what? It's related enough where I felt like if I didn't make a video about it, I'd feel like a dummy. The 70s... I love the 76 fight. this is the Bennington flag. Now, legend has it, it was flown during the Battle of Bennington, led by John Stark, and it was kept by Millard Fillmore's grandfather, which is a weird connection. But the truth of the matter is, this flag was probably never flown in battle. The first time we know of this flag coming around is in the early 1800s, to promote America and remember the Revolution, and hey, we might start a war, aka the War of 1812, with Britain soon. So remember how much you loved America. So this is the first piece of really like American Revolution memorabilia that was ever created, essentially. Now, this isn't 200 years old. This is a year and a half old, or 2 years, whenever I got it. But the idea of this flag is probably the first American memorabilia, which is, I think, fits this particular channel suitably. I also really like the design of the flag. Great. Is the Hamilton musical a woke version, or is it actual history? Great question. Yeah, you can watch the video of Hamilton if you want, but if you haven't seen it, I might spoil some things. I would not use the term woke for it. I would reference more like the movie The Patriot. The movie The Patriot is not real history. It's a bunch of people cobbled together. Now, the Hamilton play, the musical, is actually more real history than even The Patriot. That being said, as with any popular creation, it's not all of it's right. There are things that it omits that bother me, and that's what I'm mostly gonna go through when I go through the lyrics, is the things that are left out. There's certain things you can't do, like they cut a corner on John Barker Church, Eliza Schuyler Hamilton's husband. They don't talk about him at all. They just say he's not a lot of fun, which is not true. And I go into that a little bit yesterday, and I'm gonna do a whole thing on it. But actually, what I like, it's a musical, so there's definitely like the lovey-dovey parts and the mostly sad parts, actually. But what I like most about it is the American Revolution parts. When they're talking about the wars and the battles, those are some of the best pieces of media ever put together regarding the American Revolution. When they're talking about, when Washington comes out, yeah, it's really, really sweet. And then in the second act, they cut from, the first act is in the Revolutionary War, and the second act is during the George Washington administration, and it is the best piece of media, radio, television. There are definitely history books out there about the Washington administration that are better, but when it comes to popular culture, it is the best thing ever to put together regarding the Washington cabinet itself. Now, again, Dr. Lindsay Travinsky recently released a book called The Cabinet, which is way better if you want to learn about the cabinet. Friend of the show, Lindsay Travinsky. Check that out. But in brief, they have like rap battles, which I know musicals aren't for everyone. I know hip-hop is not for everyone. But I said yesterday, I haven't done it yet, I got to make a playlist of select songs specifically about the revolution and the politics of the founding itself. Because the rap battles, in 3 minutes, you have Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton completely summarize their disagreements in the George Washington cabinet. And I've never seen that even attempted anywhere else. So, and what's so good about it, as I said yesterday, I listen, and this is I try and be objective on this channel, but I have biases. I listen to Hamilton and Jefferson battling, and I hear Thomas Jefferson be correct about a lot of the points he's making. And I hear Hamilton not. And the author of the play, Lin-Manuel Miranda, actually, I've seen an interview where he says, no, Hamilton wins the battle. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. But it speaks to how good a job he did at being unbiased in most occasions. Now, unfortunately, Aaron Burr apologist I am, Aaron Burr seems to be the villain in this story, when, he gets accused of being wishy-washy all the time and take a stand, choose a side. When Aaron Burr was like, an unbiased politician who refused to toe the party line, which is something we would absolutely love today. And people loved back then. That's why he was voted vice president. With that, yeah, but no, they don't make really, off the top of my head, any real points of, they don't really come today. They do a good job telling the story I'll put it like that. But it's fine. um, we're all at most 50th cousins. Yes, exactly, Sue. We are very much all 50th cousins. Yeah, check out the video. Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, this is a very cool flag. Love it. Audrey, I'm not a hip hop fan. Classic rock and the blues are good. I'm with you. I was raised on George Thorogood. That being said, well, my dad raised me on George Thorogood. My mom raised me on Billy Joel. I am from Long Island, after all. Troy, welcome to the Anti-Federalist Dark Side, Jason. You know what, Troy? It's only just started seeping out since I started doing the Federalist reviews. I've been aware of what's happening over with the Anti-Federalists, Hamilton's coup, if you will, for quite some time. I refused to see it, but now you got me interested. I hope you do, man. I really do. It's good. As far as musicals go in general, that's why I did the video yesterday. If you go watch that, I'll talk about, like, I've always been kind of a nerd for musicals. Like, I play a bunch of instruments. I've never been in a musical or anything like that, but, so, you know. With that, and, Audrey, you love George Thorogood. I saw George Thorogood with my dad at the Westbury Music Fair in the Round. 20 years ago. My dad and his best friend, more than that, 25 years ago. I was still in, like, middle school. Actually, I learned about what, I don't know if I could say it on YouTube, so I don't want to get spoiled here, but I learned about what certain hard drugs do to people, because my dad had to explain to me why the guy in front of us was rocking out so hard during the show. And he had to explain a certain energetic narcotic that he thought that guy was definitely on. So, George. You wasn't a apothecary, that's why. My dad actually was a pharmacist. Now that we put that out there. Yeah, with that, I got a little off. You say, I say you're not a hip-hop fan and you've been avoiding it a little bit. I recommend it. Like I said in my video yesterday, like, just because the guy who plays George Washington doesn't look like George Washington doesn't mean, it's on stage. It's a live show. So you got to use your imagination a little bit. And none of that bothers me. I did say, as I said yesterday, the live show I saw, the George Washington was a lot shorter than Jefferson, and for show purposes, not for, like, historical purposes, for show purposes, that particular figure in that play, I would have expected them to choose someone who had a little bit more physical command of the stage. You can watch the video. I'm not going to go off on it too much again. It is fun. I am going to make a playlist of, like, the Revolution songs. I forgot to even mention yesterday, one of the cool things is, like, you have the Lafayette character who at the beginning can barely even sing along a slow song with the other guys because his French is so heavy. And then by the Battle of Yorktown, when he comes out to convince George Washington to call Hamilton back, he's rapping super fast. And very clearly, by the way, for people who are not hip-hop fans, very clearly you can understand everything he's saying. I mean, live, I was pretty far back. So, but it demonstrates, like, his growth as a person. He, like, literally learned to speak English better while he was here. And the play does a good job of little details like that. So I recommend it. Maybe tomorrow I'll find some time to put together a playlist. I have to figure out how to make playlists on Spotify. That's my real problem. But yeah, so I'm going to leave it at that. Kind of feel like I'm rambling a bit, but I love that you guys have these questions. I want to talk about it. There was a story. Oh, wait, no. Whoa, there was something I wanted to elaborate on, and I put off. We'll do it another time. I'll remember. We'll talk about it another time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoy making these videos. I hope you enjoy watching them. If you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon page down below. I do frequently. It's been a while because COVID threw me off, but this weekend I'm going to do it again. Live videos for the Patriots over on Patreon. To answer some more of your questions, I do a little bit of extra content over there as a reward for a little bit of support. Thank you so much, guys, and I will be back with another video, undetermined what it is yet, but another video tomorrow.